So the job numbers are in, the unemployment rate not looking good here in Canada. But what's going to happen with real estate? Let's check it out. Before we get to it, I just want to say a quick hello. My name is Jeremy Tremblay. I'm a local realtor that works here in the Belleville and surrounding areas. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. My email is down below. Leave a comment. I'd love to chat. Also, hit subscribe and the thumbs up. Let's get to it. So we're going to dive into a few of the stats and try and answer some of these questions as to what is happening right now with Canadian real estate, and specifically what is happening here in smaller areas such as Belleville, Quinte West areas. You hear a lot about what's happening over in the GTA, Toronto area, but not so much about all the other cities, and that's what we're going to focus on. If you don't know where Belleville and Quinte West is, just look at Toronto and then head east about an hour and a half down Highway 401, and there you will have Belleville, Quinte West, the area that I work in, which I think represents this area quite well. That's where we're getting these stats. We're going to look at 4 stats in particular that I think will break things down very clearly for you. And then we're going to talk about a few of those news articles that have come out. So if you're trying to figure out what is happening right now, you don't have time to kind of watch all the news. Hopefully after watching this quick short video, you'll have a better idea of what is going on. Let's get to it. So the first stat we're looking at here is the months of inventory. So this one here I always look at because it gives a good overall feel for what's happening in the market. And you hear about whether it's a buyer's market, seller's market, or a balanced market. This is generally what they are referencing. It's a ratio between the total listings and the sales. And right here, if you don't know when they say 3 months, 5 months, what that means, essentially 3 months or less of inventory is considered a seller's market. Between 3 months and 5 months is considered a balanced market, and above 5 months, well, that's considered a buyer's market. So keep those in mind. That's generally what the industry will be following. And what this means practically, well, if you were to take all the homes that are on the market, that are currently on the market right now, and then you look at how quickly homes have been selling over the last number of months, well, how long would it take for us to run out of homes, for them to all sell? Well, if it takes 3 months, we probably don't have that many homes. That means low months of inventory, more in that seller's market. Whereas if you have a whole bunch of homes that aren't selling very quickly, then you end up at the higher number, and it's generally buyer's favor. So the first one we're looking at here, months of inventory for Belleville and Quinte West, and you can see August 2026, we are right at 5 months of inventory. So that's quite an interesting number because, as we said, it went from that balanced territory and now you're into that buyer's territory. And so you look at April, it was down towards 3.3 months of inventory. So we were kind of more towards the seller's range, whereas over the course of the summer, things have been shifting more towards the buyer's range on this one. If we keep looking here, the next we have is the average sale price. Now, one thing to keep in mind with a smaller area, smaller towns, it means you've got less homes selling. So if you have one home that sells for $1 million and then another house that sells for $300,000, well, those ones there can have a pretty big effect on the average price. So you take this with a grain of salt. But in general, the average price actually hasn't been moving too much. It came in at $538,000 this past month. It was $544,000 the month prior. We had a few up areas where it got higher in the 500,000 range, but as you can see, homes in this area on average are in that $500,000 range. And then we have number of sales. This one here is also interesting, but you can see that it's quite fluid on this graph. We're looking back a year with all these stats. So going back to August of 2024, and you're over 130 sales, and then this year in August, 108 sales total. And so a little bit more significant drop there, whereas you can see we peaked at 163 sales back in May. And so we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the market cycles between a spring market and a fall market, let's keep that in mind as we keep looking forward. Days on market. How long does it take for a house to sell? How many days did it sit on the market before you get that official sold? And right here, if you're looking back once again, in August of 2024, it was just around that 40 days on the market. And then you look at August of this year, 39 and a half, right around 40 days on the market is your average right now. Not too much of a change, but since April, things have been tipping upwards a little bit. So we look at those stats and they're not alarming. Honestly, we're seeing a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a change as summer's gone on, but ultimately, these are statistics for August. And I was mentioning about market cycles. Well, in general, things do get quieter during the summer months because people are away. They're out having vacations. They're doing all the stuff they want to do before September hits. When the kids are back in school, everyone's back at work, basically used all their vacation, and then usually what happens is the fall market tends to pick up because people are trying to get housing moves and such done before Christmas. And so in general, this would be the time right now when we'll start seeing an uptick in the activity. So maybe that means more sales that will be happening, which then of course affects other things like that months of inventory. It starts to potentially go down. Now, what we're seeing here is the sentiment shift. Right now, people are starting to wonder, will we have a fall market? Will things pick up? Nobody knows. If anybody tells you they do know, they're just guessing at this point. But what we have is a lot of news coming in from other areas, such as the numbers for employment. Unfortunately, unemployment in Canada as a whole has been rising. We had 40,000 jobs that were lost over in July, and then another 60,000 showing lost in August, and the unemployment rate has ticked up, and meaning more people unemployed. And what does that do? That affects the sentiment overall. And so right now, when you talk to people and you ask, well, why are you going to be selling? Why are you thinking about buying? Well, they're taking advice from friends, family, coworkers, and what they see on those news headlines. And right now, we're seeing a lot of warning signs, and negativity seems to drive markets. And so the question is, people watching the interest rates and seeing them come down a little bit. Right now, mid-September, we have Canada has another Bank of Canada interest rate decision, and it looks like they're going to be bringing the interest rates down potentially another quarter point. Well, in the past, that would signal a good thing because it could allow you to afford a little bit more of a mortgage. Whereas right now, it seems to be signaling for many people, they're lowering the rate because things aren't looking very good in our economy. And so it's being overshadowed. Lowering that rate a little bit doesn't seem to be having as much of an effect as people saying, well, what about our jobs? Are people in fear of losing jobs? And when that's happening, that sentiment overtakes everybody, then suddenly they pull back a little bit. Now, there can be opportunity in there. Some buyers are still in a very healthy position, and they can go out and they can start looking. So as there's more inventory, the month's inventory builds up, like we said, they have more opportunity. And so we're starting to see that in these smaller areas. So whereas Toronto, Vancouver, bigger cities, it does seem to be coming down quite a bit with housing prices and activity. In our area, Quinte West, Belleville and such, it's not taking nearly as much of a hit because around here, it's a little bit more of a steady market. We don't have as much as of a highs and lows here. And so will that continue into the fall? It remains to be seen, but the stats are showing that things aren't nearly as severe in the smaller town areas, and that means there are some opportunities. Now, ultimately, where does a house sell? Well, when a seller and a buyer come to an agreement. That's when you have a sold home. And so ultimately, we still are waiting for that and wondering if the sellers are coming down or if the buyers are coming up. Right now, it looks like as per the average sale price, it's coming down a little bit overall. And so if you're a seller, you have to keep that in mind. Now, if you're just going to be taking your sale and then buying elsewhere, well, if you're buying for a little bit less as well, then it's all even. It doesn't make any difference. See, that's another thing to keep in mind. So there are a lot of factors. Try to break it down, basics here. Ultimately, when you're thinking about buying and selling, it's a very personal decision. There are so many different factors at play, and you have to talk through those and figure out what are your goals when it comes to making that purchase or making that sale. So if you made it to this point in the video, I really appreciate it. And if you want to have more of a discussion, because you are thinking about these things and you want to talk it out a little bit more, feel free to reach out. I put my email address down below in the description of this video. I'd love for you to send me an email. We can set up a call and have a discussion. And if you want to watch some more about this area, learn about Belleville and the surrounding areas, check out my channel. I have so many more videos talking about the little surrounding communities in the area. Hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Till next time.